بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره. السلام عليك يا فاطمة، السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله ورحمة الله وبركاته. In the previous session we discussed the concept of wisdom according to the experts of Arabic terminology and lexicons, and to sum up the ideas which are mentioned by them, I can refer to the following items. Of course, if you were not present in the last week, so you can listen later to the details, but just to have some idea, in the great works in this field, like Al-Ilm, like Lisan al-Arab, Majmu' al-Bahrain, Tahqiq fi Kalimat al-Quran, Mufradat al-Iradat al-Samani, when they want to define wisdom, they cannot define it by using just one word. So they mention different things. And altogether, I can mention the following things. One is knowledge. You find very much they stress on knowledge. The second is understanding. The third is that wisdom stops the person who has wisdom from doing bad actions. The fourth is that wisdom should be in compliance with truth. The fifth is that wisdom comes with the selection of the best choice. And some of them have also mentioned justice and patience. So the first 5 elements are mentioned more or less by all of them, and some of them also add justice, observance of the rights of people or different parties involved, as well as patience and forbearance. Then we started talking about the views of the great contemporary commentators or exegetes of the Quran, starting with the late Allama Tabatabai, may Allah elevate his soul. If you remember, we said that the great Allama Tabatabai in different parts of Al-Mizan has mentioned his understanding of wisdom. Altogether, he mentions the following things. So throughout Al-Mizan, the ideas of Allama Tabatabai can be summed up as follows. Sometimes he says wisdom refers to the true propositions, and by true we mean those propositions which correspond to the reality. Al-Qadaya Al-Haqqa Al-Mutabiqa Lil-Waqi. So those true propositions or statements which correspond to the reality, to the external world. But with a condition. It's not that everything which is true is counted as wisdom. It must also be related to human happiness. So anything which is true and also can bear on our happiness and salvation. And then he mentions 2 examples. One is the religious doctrines, religious teachings, because by following these teachings we can secure our happiness in the hereafter as well as in this world. The second thing is those items of knowledge that may not be primarily related to religion, but they can have some impact on our pursuit of happiness, like something about this world, about the nature that we have to know. so that we can benefit from the blessings of Allah in this world, like something about maybe, for example, economics, something about sociology or psychology, something that we have to know which are true, and in a way or another they finally relate to our pursuit of happiness. But if something which has nothing to do with our happiness, even if it is true, it's not counted as wisdom. In another place, the late Allama Tabatabai says, wisdom is the knowledge which is beneficial. Al-ma'rifah an-nafi'ah. So a beneficial knowledge which is related to our beliefs or our practice. Al-ma'rifah an-nafi'ah al-muta'alliqa bil-i'tiqad aw al-amal. Also in another place, when he comments on the verse ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal maw'izati al hasanah wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan, he goes a little bit far from this and says wisdom here refers to burhan, to demonstration. As you know, there are different types of arguments in logic. The best, the most certain type of argument is al-burhan, demonstration. So he says hikmah here may refer to demonstration. This is the view of Allama. So altogether the Allama is very much concerned with justice, but a justice which has some practical implications. Knowledge which has practical implications, something that helps us to achieve our happiness. The great Ayatollah Makarim Shirazi also in his Tafsir Namune interprets wisdom as knowledge, understanding, and he says that the reason knowledge and understanding and science and logic are called wisdom is because they stop someone from doing ugly actions. If you remember, we said in Arabic hikmah comes from hakama, and that is the metal piece that they put in the mouth of the horse or camel to control and to tame it. So altogether we can say that according to the commentators of the Quran, these are the most important factors in wisdom. Knowledge, to be beneficial, to be helpful in our pursuit of happiness, and to be able to keep us away and safe from corruption and mischief. Now let us move on to the hadith. So knowing the concept of wisdom according to the Quran, then the view of the Arab linguists, and then the commentators of the Quran. Now let's move on to the hadith. And in hadith we can find many ideas which can confirm what we have said so far, but can take us even further. First, about some hadith related to some verses of the Quran which talk about wisdom, then about general hadith. In Surah in Surah Nisa number 54, there is a story about the family of Ibrahim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to the family of Ibrahim and says, فَقَدْ آتَيْنَا آلَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ Al-Kitab wal-Hikmah. We have given to the family of Ibrahim, whether it is through Ismail, Ishmael, or through Ishaq, Isaac, we have given this family the book and wisdom. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that Al-Hikmah, wisdom here, means Al-Fahm wal-Qada, understanding and judgment. So Allah is telling us that He has given the knowledge of the book to the family of Ibrahim, Allah Nabiyana wa alayhi wa salam, and the ability to understand and then judge accordingly. You cannot judge properly unless you understand. So only the people of understanding can judge. And commenting on the verse in Surah Luqman, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةِ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِلَّهِ. Imam Kazim alayhi salam told Hisham in a famous hadith which you find in Al-Kafi, the first volume of Kafi. Imam said, Al-Hikmah here means understanding and intelligence. Al-Fahmu wal-Aql. In a hadith from Imam Baqir alayhi salam commenting on the same verse, Imam said hikmah means al-ma'rifah, is knowledge. In another hadith, Imam Baqir alayhi salam told Abu Basir, hikmah means obedience and knowing the Imam. So you may be surprised why different things are mentioned, but you shouldn't, I think, be that much surprised, because it's very difficult to define wisdom only by one word or two words. So depending on what was needed in that context, Imam referred to different aspects of wisdom. So these are all included, but none of them can be the exact equivalent to wisdom. And then I have been thinking about many hadiths. I have here more than maybe 20-25 hadiths, and I mentioned my understanding of wisdom according to hadith, not my final understanding. And then I only mentioned some of the hadiths because the time is very limited, but inshallah you can yourself follow it up. So before I mention some of the hadiths, I want to mention the things that you can find in hadith so that you bear in mind. And then when you listen to these hadiths, you can somehow refine your understanding of wisdom. These are the things that you find in hadith about wisdom. There are about 12 different items that you can find in hadith. Some of them are the same as what we found in the views of Allama Tabatabai or people like Ar-Raghib and the author of Lisan al-Arab. Some are different. So we find more details here. One thing that definitely we find in hadith about wisdom is understanding. I have already said something about the difference between knowing and understanding. Another thing that we find is knowledge. Another thing that we find in hadith about wisdom is that wisdom should lead to obedience. A wise person is not the one who knows and understands and then disobeys what he understands. He must be obedient to the truth and to the true who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also, after obedience, fear of God. A wise person is a person who is very cautious and a person who has fear of God, of course in a positive sense. To the extent that in some hadith it has been said that Ra'sul Hikmah Makhafatullah. The root of wisdom, the very foundation of wisdom is to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are careless about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His will, you cannot be a wise person. Another thing that we find in hadith is that the wisdom primarily is related to the heart. Wisdom is not something which is on the tongue primarily. It can appear on the tongue, as we will explain. But initially, primarily, It is something which settles in your heart, not tongue, not even mind. Knowledge is about mind sometimes, depending on different types of knowledge, but the conceptual knowledge is about mind. But wisdom is a quality in the heart. Of course, it needs and requires knowledge, but it's a quality of the heart. Another thing that we find in our hadith is that wisdom comes with patience. We had it in the book Al-Ain also. Wisdom comes with tolerance. This is also important. Inshallah, I will mention hadith. A wise person is not an aggressive person who fights with everyone. A wise person is patient and know how to deal with different people so that he can have a peaceful relation with the people. Of course, there can be always exceptions, but the general principle is tolerance or al-mudarat. And also to have good trait of character, to be moderate, ar-rifq, to the extent that in one hadith says ar-rifq ra'sul hikmah, like makhafatullah ra'sul hikmah, also rifq, to be moderate, to be zealot, to be extremist is a sign of not being wise. A wise person doesn't go to extremes. He always strikes the balance between different positions. Another thing that we find in hadith is that wisdom needs experience. A wise person is the one who has been through many experiences. A naive person is not possible to be wise. Or a child who hasn't been through different circumstances and conditions cannot be wise unless it is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is of course different. But if you are trying to achieve wisdom, you need to increase your experience, and this is very important. So a wise person is the one who has lots of experiences in different fields, and above all, the one who has met many people in different ranks. Sometimes you find among the students, even in the seminary, that they have only experience of attending the lectures of one teacher. Only one teacher, they always attend his lecture. Of course, that teacher can be a great teacher, but I think this stops the development of wisdom in you. You have to attend different lectures. Not every day you change your teacher, but over years you have to listen to different scholars, to benefit from different scholars, read the books of different scholars, so that you broaden your mind. Don't get stuck with one person. Apart from Ma'sumi, no person is perfect. You need to go to different scholars, benefit from their experiences, from their insights, from their ideas. Meet different people. There are people who never leave their own town. To travel, to visit people of your own country or people of other countries, people of your faith or people of other faith, it's very helpful in having the ability to be given wisdom by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you need lots of experiences to be able to meet the people from different ages. If you are a person who always meets the people of his own age, again your experience will be limited. You have to meet and be in touch with people of different ages, different backgrounds. If you always meet seminarians, or you always meet the people who are in the market and business people, or you always meet the farmers, these people are all respected, but just to meet one group of people and not be in touch with the rest of the community and society stops you from having enough experiential ground for having wisdom. So to be experienced is very important. And I wish we could have just one lecture on this. The other thing which is very important about wisdom, and you find it in many hadiths, inshallah I will mention some, is that you need to have control over your appetites, over your lusts, your lower desires. A person who eats whatever he wishes, who drinks whatever he wishes, does whatever he wishes, goes after his or her instincts and desires, cannot be a wise person. You have to control your appetites and your anger so that you can be given wisdom. Another thing that we find in our hadith is that to be wise, you have to keep away from deception. Don't deceive yourself or others. Unfortunately, sometimes people cheat. Sometimes people try to deceive. Even sometimes we deceive ourselves. Sometimes we deceive ourselves because we don't want to admit our problems and mistakes, so it's easier to say that I have been right, I have not been guilty. So we deceive ourselves and cover up the truth so that we cannot blame ourselves. A wise person or a person who has ambition of becoming wise must keep away from anything which is not truthful, cheating or deception. Another thing that you find very much related to wisdom is to experience hunger and ju'. You find in many hadiths that one of the benefits of fasting is wisdom. I'm not saying that you should not eat so that you become ill or weak, but we should eat just as much as we need our health, for our health. Also silence. A wise person is a person who doesn't speak that much. And to be able to be given wisdom also, you need to gain this quality. We should reduce our words so that our heart can be at rest and can digest, can understand, and maybe inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then would ignite the light of wisdom in your heart. So this is also something very important. The other thing that you find related to wisdom is to be humble, humility. The person who is arrogant cannot be wise. If you want to have wisdom, you have to learn how to be humble. And the other thing is that the people who are wise, and also the people who have the ambition to be wise, should get lessons from the lives of others. A wise person doesn't wait till he himself does something and then learns what he should do the next time. Sometimes maybe there is no next time. Maybe it's too late. You have to benefit from the lives of others. Get lesson from their experiences, whether good or bad. The good experiences can help you to follow them. The bad experiences also can help you so that you avoid. You don't follow them. You don't get trapped in the same problem. So, now if you remember all these things that I mentioned, now we can mention some of the hadiths, inshallah. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, Al-hikmatu shajaratun tanbutu fil qalb wa tuthmiru ala al-lisan. You remember I said it's primarily related to the heart. We have many things about this. This is one hadith, the famous hadith about whoever tries to be pure for 40 days, man akhlasa lillahi arba'ina sabahan. Again, in that hadith is mentioned that Allah would create the fountains of wisdom in his heart, and then it will flow over to his tongue. Wisdom is a tree which grows in the heart and bears its fruits on the tongue. So sometimes we see people say wise words, wise sayings. These are the fruits of wisdom. But sometimes these are the fruits which are grown in their own heart. Sometimes they have taken these fruits from other people. You understand? So sometimes this person himself is a wise person, and these are natural outcomes of what is happening in his heart. And sometimes maybe even a bad person, maybe a hypocrite, a polytheist, even a mushrik, as we have in our hadith, may have some words of wisdom. You can benefit from these fruits, but there is nothing beyond. These are the fruits, but in the heart there is no light, there is no wisdom. So don't be deceived if you see that some people, or even some schools of thought, or some religious traditions in the east or west, sometimes they have some wise ideas. But this doesn't mean that everything else is okay. This can be just some words of wisdom that they have learned from other sources, not necessarily received from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another thing is quoted from the Prophet Jesus, Isa ala nabiyina wa alihi wa salam, in our sources. Inna al-hikmah nuru kull qalb. Wisdom is the light for every heart. There is no heart which can say, I don't need wisdom. Any heart without wisdom would be dark. If you want to enlighten and to revive your heart, you have to listen to wise words, and then inshallah plan for yourself being given wisdom. First, with wise words, with tara'iful hikam, revive and give energy to your heart, and then inshallah your heart by itself should start growing wisdom. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is quoted as saying, قَادَ الْحَكِيمُ أَنْ يَكُونَ النَّبِيَّ. The wise people come in the rank next to the prophets, to the extent that they are very close to be a prophet. They may not be a prophet necessarily, like Luqman. Luqman was not a prophet, but he was a hakim, he was a wise person. But the Prophet says, those who are hakim, those who are wise, they are very close to the position of prophethood. And this is why I said they come in the rank next to the prophets. What do you expect from a prophet? A prophet is not just a person who is knowledgeable. A prophet is the one who has ability to tell you what is the most useful for you, what is the most beneficial way of securing your interests. A prophet is the one who can be your leader. After the prophets, then we come to the wise people. Imam Ali alayhi salam said, Al-Hukama, and I'm sure you agree with me that hukama doesn't mean philosophers. Sometimes we translate hikmah as philosophy, but philosophy does not necessarily lead to wisdom. Hopefully, but not necessarily. Al-hukama ashrafun nas nafsan. They are the noblest of people in their soul, in their character, the noblest of people. Because hikmah, as we said, stops you doing anything bad. So you become noble. وَأَكْثَرُهُمْ sabran. They are the greatest in patience. وَأَسْرَعِهِمْ عَفْوًا. They are the fastest in forgiving. If someone wrongs them, they forgive very quickly. وَأَوْسَعِهِمْ أَخْلَاقًا. They are very open, very much accommodating people with different maybe attitude, different types of character. They are very good in their temper, very tolerant. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said,